Hi guys, and welcome to part 2. In this second segment we'll take a look at the Commodore 64 and we will release the verdict on who is the winner in this special episode of the 8-Bit Wars Resurrection. Released in 1982, which was the same year as the Spectrum but 2 years prior to the Amstrad, and with a price tag of £299, Commodore released the most popular model of home computer ever built, the Commodore 64. Estimates have placed sales between 17 and 22 million units worldwide during a production lifespan that lasted 10 years until 1992. There were several versions of the C64, from the original bullnose design through to the later restyled version, and even a special version produced specifically for the education market. The Commodore 64 is also known for its simplicity. The box it came in welcomes the user to the world of friendly computing. The keyboard casing, affectionately known as the bread box, is as charming and unintimidating as it is hard on the wrists. Commodore designed their own chips, fabricated them and assembled all the computers themselves, giving them total control and a highly customised machine that was ahead of its time. This included an MOS 6510 processor running at 1 MHz, which on the surface seems stupidly slow compared to the Spectrum and the Amstrad, but it was coupled with two spectacular custom chips. The first of these was a graphics processor known as the VIC-2. VIC-2 was capable of producing images at 320 by 200 pixels from a palette of 16 colours. It had a text mode that displays 40 characters and 25 rows in upper or lower case, as well as Commodore's Petsky graphics set. Most importantly, from a gamer's point of view, it was also capable of handling hardware sprites and scrolling, which meant the C64 was an excellent choice for arcade games. However, the higher raw clock speed of both the Spectrum and Amstrad made those machines much more suited to wireframe or vector-style graphics. In order to incorporate the whole colour palette, most C64 games used a lower 160 by 200 resolution. This led to the characteristic C64 look and style, with an almost pastel colour shading and slightly chunkier graphics than either the Spectrum or the CPC 464. The second and most noteworthy custom chip was the legendary SID sound chip, which could control 9 octaves of 4 soundwave envelopes over 3 separate channels of PCM quality samples. This led to some amazing musical creations, and even after more than 25 years the SID chip's music is as popular as ever and still capable of sending a shiver down the spine of those experiencing it for the first time. The Commodore 64 had 64K of RAM, hence the name, and 20K of ROM containing the Commodore Basic. It was bundled with a separate tape recorder, but the interface was slower at only 300 bits per second. Thankfully, it also had provision for an add-on drive unit. I/O ports included the RGB with sound in and out, 2 joystick plugs again conforming to the Atari standard, a cartridge slot, serial ports, user ports and a TV RF output. Now, if the Spectrum was the underdog and the CPC was the geek, then the C64 was definitely the renegade. Commodore's strategy of doing things slightly differently and pushing the envelope was to become their trademark for several years. My favourite fact about this machine is that the Commodore 64 was originally developed as a video game engine to be used in video arcades, and this is the reason why the machine has such good sound and graphics. The idea was to have a basic machine which could be reprogrammed for a different game when the previous one became out of favour, so you would not have to trash the whole machine. Shortly afterwards, though, the stateside market for arcade machines completely collapsed, so Commodore attempted to recoup their investment by releasing the hardware as a home computer. Well, selecting a winner from these 3 systems is going to be very difficult, as I suspected. Obviously, the benefit of hindsight is a wonderful thing, and it's all too easy to make an informed decision from what we now know about the history of these machines. But looking at this objectively from the standpoint of a customer buying his first computer in the 80s, which do you choose? Quite interestingly, each of these 3 systems fit a different criteria. Firstly, you have the Specky, which is basically the lowest cost home computer ever made. A fantastic entry point and probably the one your mates already owned. The importance of this last fact can't be overemphasised, as peer pressure of being able to share experiences and games with your friends is of massive significance. But does this justify the machine's flaws? Secondly, the Amstrad ticks all the boxes, but it is very expensive. Despite being the most complete home computer solution and its technical superiority, you probably didn't know anyone who owned one of these. By the time of its release, the Spectrum wagon train is well and truly rolling, and you have to question whether the high entry point of the Amstrad will allow it to reach the masses in the same way the Specky already has. The slightly geeky feel of the package also puts you off, but if you could afford it, then it's definitely worth a look for the huge potential, and you know your friends would be secretly jealous, even if you wouldn't be part of their club anymore. Lastly, the Commodore 64 sits squarely in the middle, a real renegade of its time and literally designed from the ground up as the gamer's choice. Still quite expensive, but a few of your mates probably have them, and everyone who owns one seems to be banging on about how great it is. This is a hard machine to ignore, but in the UK at least, the whole C64 design and the package feels very Americanised and a little too unfamiliar. You're not sure about the slightly blocky graphics, but the noise from that SID chip alone is almost worth the price tag. So, at this point, it's all too tempting to chicken out and declare the whole thing a draw, as each system has a lot to offer in its own way, but I have to make a decision, however unpopular. So, from looking at the specifications and purely from a technical standpoint, the winner of this special edition of the Hardware 8-Bit Wars is the Commodore 64. Its hardware revolutionised the industry with the use of custom chipsets. It was a great all-round package, and most importantly, this computer just feels like the future, if a little bit American. Thanks everyone for joining me on this 8-Bit Wars special. I'm sure my decision will spark much debate, and I can't wait to hear your comments. Look forward to seeing you all next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.
That's all we have for today. Please come again soon. Exiting the system. Goodbye.